Well, thank you, Mataji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 7. Further Inquiries by Vidura. Text 1. Sri Sukha Uvacha. Evam Bruvanam Metrayem. Dvaya Payana Sato Buddhaha. Grinayan Eva Bharatya. Vidura Prati Abha Asata.
Hare Krishna. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, while Maitreya, the great sage, was thus speaking, Vidura, the learned son of Dvaipana Vyas, expressed a request in a pleasing manner by asking this question.
Text 2. Vidura Uvacha Brahman Katham Bhagavatas Chinmatrayasya Vikarinaha Leelaya Chapi Yujyerana Nirgunasya Gunakriyaha.
Sri Vidura said, O great Brahmana, since the superpersonality of Godhead is the complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature?
Text 3. Hridayamudhyamor bha asya kama chikridis anyataha svata satriptasya chakatham nivrattasya sadanyataha.
Boys are enthusiastic to play with the other boys or with various diversions because they are encouraged by desire. But there is no possibility of such desire for the Lord because he is self-satisfied and detached from everything at all times.
Text 4. Asraksit bhaga Vanvishwam guna maya yatma mayaya taya samstha apayati etat bhuya pratya hasyati.
By his self-sheltered potency of the three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her, he maintains the creation and conversely dissolved it again and again.
Text 5. Desatakala toyo sava avasataha svatonyataha avilupta bodhatma sayujyeta jaya kathama.
The pure soul is pure consciousness and is never out of consciousness, either due to circumstances, time, situation, dreams, or other causes. How then does he become engaged in the near signs?
Text 6. Bhagavan eka eva vaisa sarva setre sva avastitaha amustya durbha gatvam va klesho va karma bihi kutaha.
The Lord, as a supersoul, is situated in every living being heart. Why then do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery?
Text 7. Etasmin me mano vidvana Khidyeti gnana sankate tanna para nuda vibho kasmalamana samahata.
O great and learned one, my mind is greatly illusioned by the distress of this near science. and I therefore request you to clear it up.
Text 8. Visuka uvacha sa etam chodita satra tatva jigna sunamuniha sorry pratyaha bhaga vacha chitta smayan eva gata samayaha.
Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, O King Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was full God conscious.
Text 9. Maitreya uvacha Seyam bhagavato maya yena nayena virudhyate ishvarasya vimuktasya karpanyamuta bandhanam.
Sri Maitreya said, certain conditioned souls put forward the theory that the Supreme Brahman or the personality of Godhead is overcome by illusions or Maya, and at the same time they maintain that he is unconditioned. This is against all logic.
Text 10. Yad arthena vina amusya pumsa atma vipara yayaha pratiyata upa adarastu swasiraschedanatika.
The living entity is in distress regarding his self-identity. He has no factual background, like a man who dreams that he sees his head cut off.
Text 11. Yatha jale chandramasaha Kampadi tatkrito gunaha drasyate san api drastura atmano gunaha.
As the moon reflected on water appears to shear to tremble due to being associated with the quality of the water, so the self-associate with matter appears to be qualified as a matter.
Text 10. Save nivritti dharmena Vasudevanukampaya Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena Tridho Tri Tri sorry Triodate Sanir
But that misconception of the self-identity can be diminished gradually by the mercy of the personality of Godhead, Vasudev, through the process of devotional service to the Lord in the mode of detachment.
Text 13. Yad Indriyo Paramotha Drastratamani Pareharoha Vilyante Tada Klesaha Samsu Tasyeva Kritsnasaha.
When the senses are satisfied in the sheer soul, super soul, the personality of Godhead, and merge in him, all miseries are completely vanquished, as after a sound sleep.
Text 14. Asi sasanklesha samam vidyate gunanunuada shravanam morare kim va punastach charnarvinda par agaseva ratiratmalabda.
Simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, forms, etc., of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of flavor of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet.
Text 15. Vidur uvacha sanchinaha samsayumayam tava suktasina vibu ubhaya trapi bhagavana mano me sampradhavati.
Vidura said, O powerful sage, my lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them.
Text 16. Sadva etat vayaritam vidvan natma mayayanam hariha abhati apartham nirmulam vishwamulam na yad bahiha.
O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbance to the conditioned soul has no other basis than a movement of the external energy of the Lord.
Text 17. Yascha muthat tamoloke yascha buddheha param gataha tav ubhayo sukham edete klesyati antar rito janaha.
Both by the lowest of fools and he who is transcendental in all intelligence enjoy happiness, whereas persons between them suffers the material pangs.
Text 18. Artha bhavam vinischetaya prati asyapi natmanaha tam chapi yusmach charana sevayaham paranude.
But my dear sir, I'm obliged to you because now I can understand that this material manifestation is without substance, although it appears real. I am confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea.
Text 19. Yat sevaya bhagavataha kutastasasya madhudvisaha ratirasa bhavet tivraha padayur vyasana vyasa nardanaha.
By serving the feet of the spiritual master, one is unable to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of the personality of Godhead, who is the unchangeable enemy of the Madhu demon, and whose service vanquishes one's material distresses.
Text 20. Durapahe alpatapasaha seva vaikunthavartamasu yatrupa gyate nityam deva devo janardanaha.
Persons whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees who are progressing on the path back to the kingdom of Godhead, the Vaikunthas. Pure devotees engage 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of the demigods and the controller of all the living entities.
Text 21. Vagre mahadadini Savikarani anukramat Devayuva virajamud pritya tam anupravi sadvibuhu.
After creating the total material energy, the Mahatattva, and thereby manifesting the gigantic universal form which senses and the sense organ, the Supreme Lord entered within it. Hare Krishna, please forgive me for any mistakes.
Hare Krishna, please forgive me for my mistakes as well. Haribol.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a wonderful recitation and reading of the translations. So, yeah, let me, Jyoti Mataji, I think I can share my screen.
Hare Krishna, yes, Prabhuji, you can share.
Oh, okay, great. So, yeah, I think all of you can see the screen. Let me adjust my other screens a little bit. Start. Yeah, it should be fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So we
गुणानुवादाश्रवणान् मुरारेः किं वा पुनस्तच्चरणारविन्द त्वरागसेवा रतिरात्मलब्धा.
Yes. So we are going to read from verse number 15 to 18. Okay, let's start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Neshtaki Yam Pravrjantam Anupetam Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatar Aju Ava Putreti Tanmayatayo Taravo Vinedustam Sarvabhuta Hridayam Unimanatosmi. So today we are going to read verses from the 7th chapter of the 3rd canto, number 15, 16, 17, and 18. So let's start. I think there is a lot to read. So just to have the consistency of the theme, we will read everything and then we will come back to the discussions. So verse number 15, excuse me, Vidura Vacha Sanchinnah Samshayo Mayham Tava Suktasina Vibho Ubhayatrapi Bhagavan Manome Sampradhavati. Translation. Vidura said, O powerful sage, my lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them. Just to give the continuity of, because all these verses from 15 to 18 is actually the contentment Mahatma Vidur is expressing towards his spiritual master, Lord Maitreya, or Maitreya Muni. So this is the actual verse. I think Gayatri Mataji was chanting this verse. Ashesha Sankle, Ashesha Sankle Shamam Vidhate Gunanvada Shravanam Murarihe Kimva Punastas Charanaravinda Paraga Seva Ratiratmalabdha. It's a beautiful verse. Simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, etc. of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. And therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet, Paraga Seva, Ratiratma Labdha. So serving the flavor of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. So, very beautiful verse, and this is the continuation. So, now we will start because, as you can see here, O powerful sage, my Lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. And the earlier verse we just read is actually the concluding statement of all the doubts Mahatma Vidur is asking. And then that's why he's saying, my mind is now perfectly entering into them. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The science of Krishna or the science of God and the living entities is so subtle that even a personality like Vidur has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. Doubts about the eternal relationship of the Lord and the living entity are created by mental speculators in different ways. But the conclusive fact is that the relationship of God and the living entity is one of the predominator and the predominated. The Lord is the eternal predominator, and the living entities are eternally predominated. Real knowledge of this relationship entails reviving the lost consciousness to this standard, and the process of such revival is devotional service to the Lord. By clearly understanding from authorities like Sage Maitreya, one can become situated in real knowledge, and the disturbed mind can thus be fixed upon the progressive path. Let's go to the next verse. Sadhve tad vyarutam vidvan atmamayayanam hrehe abhatya partham nirmulam vishwamulam vishwamulam na yadvahihi. Translation. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned souls have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. A living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of the entire material manifestation. For otherwise, the Lord has no need to create such a manifestation, even for his pastimes. The conditioned soul, under the spell of the external energy of the Lord, falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. The Lord is the predominator of the external energy Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material condition. The false attempt of the living entities to occupy the predominating post of the Lord is the cause of his material bondage, and the conditioned soul's attempt to become one with the Lord is the last snare of Maya. Maya aparuta jnana, that is the verse from Bhagavad Gita, which quickly comes to our mind. So let's go to the next verse. So this verse, as you can see in the purport, is actually the perfect continuation in terms of the meditation of do's and don'ts, because in the earlier verse, clearing of the Mahatma Vidur is saying that all doubts of the Supreme about the Supreme Personality of Godhead are cleared, because the earlier questions were related to the speculations. It's not Vidurji is actually speculating; he is asking for the benefit of everyone, because this conversation between Maitreya Muni and Vidur is going to be the milestone for the people who want to get the guidance in the right mood. And we will come to that discussion a little later. So we can see here, as Srila Prabhupada writes, doubts about the eternal relationship of the Lord and the living entity are created by mental speculators in different ways. And the next purport Srila Prabhupada gives the nature of the living entity and how Maya is very powerful. So let's go to the next verse. We have to cover two more. यश्च मूढतमो लोके यश्च बुद्धेः परं गतः तावुभौ सुखमूढेते क्लिश्यन्त्य अन्तरिज क्लिश्यन्त्य अंतरितो जनः. Both the lowest of the fools and he who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoy happiness, whereas persons between them suffer the material pangs. Very interesting. Prabhupada will write a very interesting insights in this purport. The lowest of fools do not understand material miseries. They pass their lives merrily and do not inquire into the miseries of life. Such persons are almost on the level of animals, who, although in the eyes of superiors, are always miserable in life, are unaware of material distresses. A hog's life is degraded in its standard of happiness, which entails living in filthy place, engaging in sex enjoyment at every opportune moment, and laboring hard in a struggle for existence. But this is unknown to the hog. Similarly, human beings who are unaware of the miseries of material existence and are happy in sex life and hard labor are the lowest of the fools. Yet, because they have no sense of miseries, they supposedly enjoy so-called happiness. The other class of men, those who are liberated and are situated in transcendental position above intelligence, are really happy and are called Paramahamsas. But persons who are neither like hogs and dogs, nor on the level of Paramahamsas, feel the material pangs, and for them, inquiry about the supreme truth is necessary. The Vedanta Sutra states, Athato Brahma Jignasa. Now one should inquire about Brahma. This inquiry is necessary for those who are between the Paramahamsas and the fools who have forgotten the question of self-realization in the midst of life in sense gratification. And the last verse for today. अर्थाभावं विनिश्चित्य प्रतितस्यापि नात्मनः तां चापि युष्मच्चरण सेवयाहं परानुदे. Translation. But my dear sir, I am obliged to you because now I can understand that this material manifestation is without substance, although it appears real. I am confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The sufferings of the conditioned soul are superficial and have no intrinsic value, like the cutting of one's head in a dream. Yet, although this statement is theoretically very true, it is very difficult for the common man or the neophyte on the transcendental path to realize practically. However, by serving the feet of great transcendentalists like Maitreya Muni and by constantly associating with them, one is enabled to give up the false idea that the soul suffers from material pangs. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Few days back, I was listening to a few lectures and doing some reference work, and through those lectures, something was very, very important thing was revealed, that actually our acharyas, right from the Sridhar Swami of the Sampurna Dvaita Sampradaya, whose name is referred in our all the transcendental literature quite regularly. Baldev Vidyabhushan, and then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and all the great personalities, including Sripad Madhvacharya and all the great acharyas. Srila Prabhupada's purports actually brings the complete crux of, or the summary of everybody's commentary in his purports. And this is something very mystical, because in such a short span of time, at night time, when Prabhupada was on his dictaphone and he was giving the commentary on the purport on his dictaphone, spontaneously, all the it's like the shower of mercy was there in Prabhupada's words, and um, that's what we can see in his purports. Very powerful purports. If someone tries to, a very profound scholar tries to go through our Vaishnava literature and again comes back to Srila Prabhupada's purport, we will realize that how much potency is there in these purports, such a powerful purports uh, our Acharya Srila Prabhupada has given. So let's start our discussion. Let's do the Mangala Charana and then we will start. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं स अद्वैतं स अवधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। अजानुलम्बितभुजौ कनकावधातौ संकीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजभरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरौ करुणा अवतारौ। यन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसूप्तां सञ्जीवयत्य अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना। अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणाश्रवणात्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्। So, as we talked about the earlier verse, let's quickly go through some of the points of this particular chapter till this verse. So, from 1 to 7, Vidurji inquires about Ishwar and the Jivas. He says, how can the Lord, who is spiritual and transcendental, be connected with material gunas? So 3 modes of material nature and the process of creation in the earlier chapter, which was in the early adhyaya, where the living entities, the manifestation, and what are the senses, the intelligence, and everything. We went through before that the Mahatattva, Pradhan, and everything Maitreya Muni has explained. And then, because of that Vishwarupa Darshan, the question will easily come to any Jivatma's mind, that how can the Lord, who is spiritual and transcendental, be connected with material gunas? Because that's what the creation is. When the material logical understanding is someone who is creating, is involved in it. And naturally, the person will ask this question that how come Lord is involved in the material activities? How does the second question from 5 to 6, which comes to the point, is how does the pure soul becomes engaged in essence and thus suffer? In the further, Maitreya Muni is now giving the details or the insight is that Lord remains aloof, unconditioned by this material manifestation. Though he is the creator, he still doesn't. And he says that in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that even I am the creator, I am not in it. I am not part of it, of this material energy. And before that, even in the 7th chapter, Lord is saying that apareyam itastwanyam prakritim vidhyatam jiva bhuta mahabhavo yayedam dharyate jagat. He gives even in the 7th chapter itself, Lord starts that apareyam itastwanyam. Apara prakriti is this material energy. Itastu anyam prakritim vidhi me param. And there is another energy, para prakriti, prakritim vidhi me param, which is other than this, which is separate, which is higher. Jiva bhuta mahavaho yayedam dharyate jagat. So jiva bhut, all the jivatmas are not part of this inferior energy. That's what Lord has said in the beginning of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita itself. And Maitreya Muni is giving that very beautiful insight till the verse number 14, and that's what we went through in just a few minutes back. So, Ashesha Sankleshamam Shamam Vidatte Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare. All the illusion we have, Lord is beyond that. And that's Prabhupada gives a very beautiful details of how that illusion can be dispelled is by simply chanting and hearing the transcendental name form Guna Rupa Nama Krita Deyani Vachana Gocharani Bhavantu. All the sages, they said this to Maharaj Nabhi. It will come in the 4th chapter later. So, name, form, etc. of the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited material conditions. That means the separation from this material body, and material body as we have discussed several times. Gross body, which is this, then we have this micro body, which is Sukshma Sharir, and then the origin of micro body is in the Karan Sharir, which is a subtle body. And this is all the possessions we have, and person is very attached to it. And that's the cessation Maitreya Muni is talking about here. Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the lotus feet. So, and then Vidurji is now saying, my all doubts are dispelled. So, what is the conclusion from 12 to 14 is devotional service, path of bhakti, bhakti yoga, connecting with the Lord by the path of bhakti. Here in the 15th verse, when Vidurji is saying, all my doubts about the Lord and the jiva have been cut off by the weapon of your convincing words, and my mind is entering them. Suktasina, which is the convincing word. Then in the 16th verse, he's further saying, is the accurate explanation. You have explained that the disturbances of jiva has no other basis than the Lord's external energy. 17th, he's saying, who is happy? The lowest of the fools, like an animal, or the liberated person who is on the transcendental platform, who has joined the Paraprakriti of the Lord. And in between, they will suffer. And the 18th verse is service converts conviction to realization. So difference between jnana and vijnana. Jnana is just a, I think we talked about it in our previous discussions. Difference between jnana and vidya. What is the difference between jnana and vidya? Anyone? What is jnana and what is vidya?
Jnana is knowledge, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, and vidya means?
Um,
In English terms, vidya is also knowledge, isn't it?
that's true, Prabhuji. Yes.
What's the
Yeah.
difference?
Well, the way I'm sure I'm wrong here, Prabhuji, here, but Vidya is knowledge, but we call Saraswati as Vidya, right? Saraswati Devi. So knowledge in spirituality.
Okay. Knowledge of the material knowledge is also can be considered as, when it is in service with the Lord, to the Lord, it is also spiritual. Spiritualization can happen of any material knowledge. Though it is incomplete, it is possible.
True,
So, yeah. So, any knowledge, for example, physics, quantum physics, if you use it in the service of the Lord, that knowledge is it's basically worshipping Mother Ganga with her own water. It is something like that. So the difference between Vidya and knowledge, or Jnana and Vidya, is Jnana is a stationery which is there. You can read it, and it is like adding the charge or adding the data in a hard disk. That is knowledge. That knowledge is there. You are transferring from here to there. It's just a standard. Vidya needs action. You need to make an action to understand, to read that knowledge, to understand something. So Vijnan is a knowledge when you realize it through austerities. Austerity can be, yes, asking submissively, making sure that you are trying to grasp, able to answer. That is Vijnan, realization of the knowledge. By performing the penances and austerities, you realize knowledge. That is Vijnan. So Vidya is always related to action. So as you rightly said, Nurta Mataji, that Goddess Saraswati is there. That means there is action, there is a personal interaction, correct? When there is knowledge, for example, if there is a book on the bookshelf and you say, okay, that is knowledge, yes, of course there is knowledge, but that knowledge on its own, without any interaction, is it doesn't have much value. So Vidya needs action. There has to be some interaction. Then that knowledge has value, and that is why devotional service, bhakti, is not a stationary process. Bhakti is always action. You understand what God is, who we are, how to love God, and how to have that very sweet, beautiful relationship. So, in these 15 to 18 verses, we just went through in a quick insight of what these verses are. So, what is the conclusion for in today's session? Few things we can take away is Mahatma Vidur is a perfect personality to sit on the throne of Hastinapur because he has humility, He is well versed in scriptures. He has a desire to constantly refine, improve, develop his path of bhakti. He has intense eagerness to connect himself with the Lord, yoga. So he's a perfect personality. Um, he had all qualifications of the emperor. Um, he was a learned scholar, perfect body. He could handle all the situations. And most important, um, he is the pure devotee of the Lord. He's an example of the important verse from Bhagavad Gita. What Lord says, was Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Which one? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shunichaiva Shopakecha Pandita Samadarshina. Srila Radhanath Maharaj says that this is the verse which attracted him so much to this movement, to this path of bhakti. When he read Bhagavad Gita, when he came across this verse, he was amazingly fascinated by this verse. The person who can see, who has that vidya, who has realized the knowledge, vidya vinaya, with that humility, sampanne, sampanna means he is decorated. He has that. Yeah, the vinaya is humility is an ornament, and ornament comes with that vidya, with that knowledge, with that realized knowledge. Brahmane Gavihastini, and he sees everything with a equanimity, with single vision. The dog eater, Brahman. That's what this word. Shunichaiva Shapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. That person is Pandit, Samadarshina. He can see everything with equanimity. But because he was born in a quote unquote lower class of the society, that's why he was appointed as a prime minister. So we can see here Vidurji has all the access to all the opulences, all the powers, everything. And still he was insulted by Duryodhan, because now, while reading this, something occurred in my mind, that two types of people are here in this particular scenario. If we see Mahabharata, Vishwarup Darshan was before Arjun. It was given to whom? It was shown to Duryodhan. We're not talking about Vrajalila here. That is on a different platform. But in terms of the sequences of this particular area of Mahabharata, Duryodhan saw Vishwarup Darshan, the universal form of the Lord, and he was not affected. It developed envy. Still, he had that envious heart. Dhritarashtra, he was told by Vidurji that yes, he's God, he's the supreme personality of Godhead, he is his Krishna himself. And still Dhritarashtra, with his blind eyes, he was perfectly described with the Shastra Chakshu. He was given a complete understanding of the Vishwarup Darshan of the Lord. We know that in Bhagavad Gita, and of course, even before that, Duryodhan, when he saw the Vishwarup Darshan, universal form of the Lord, Dhritarashtra was informed what the scene is, and still his heart did not change. Two people now, they are familiar with the Vishwarup Darshan. The third person who is describing the Vishwarup Darshan in Bhagavad Gita is Sanjaya. And his heart, because he was just accepting the instruction of his spiritual master, Srila Vyasadeva, he had perfect understanding of who is going to win, who is going to lose. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara. So he had a perfect understanding. And still, he's saying this verse to whom? To his master, Dhritarashtra, and still Dhritarashtra's heart wasn't changed. Arjun, after seeing Vishwarup Darshan, he obviously, in that whole process, he is aware of the 10th chapter. He's saying that Param Brahma Param Dham Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashwatam Divyam Adidevam Majam Vibhu. He's giving the proper details of who the Lord is, and there is a complete surrender from his side. So, and then Krishna is saying to Arjun that in a 9th chapter itself, that because you are not envious and you are my friend, that's why this Vidya of Rajavidya Rajguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam, this knowledge of bhakti can enter your heart. You will realize that knowledge of bhakti. So in 9th chapter, in 10th chapter, he is saying that, yes, these are my opulences. And later on, towards the end of the 11th chapter, that famous, beautiful verse, mat karma kurun mat param. Let's go to that verse. Sorry, I'm incredibly fascinated by that verse. I love chanting that verse, so that's why I thought, why not? We will just, since we are going to that verse. Matkarma krunmat paramo madbhaktah sangavaristah nirvairah sarvabhuteshu yah samameti pandava. It's very relevant to what we were just discussing just now. My dear Arjun, he who engages me in pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. And that Vishwarup Darshan, this is the conclusion of it. Who is friendly, by that means there is no envy to every living being, he certainly comes to me. So that this is actually what Arjun signifies in the process of bhakti, Sakhyaras, correct? He is the perfect friend of the Lord. He is the epitome of that Sakhyaras. In this particular context, if you read Padma Puran, you will get even more insight that Arjun is there in the Madhurya Ras as well. But let's not get into that discussion. It will be a lot of diversion. So here, on the Krishna Loka planet in spiritual Kai and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead must take this formula, and as stated by the Supreme himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Such an amazing verse it is. The Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls, means suppose all of us, who are engaged in the material world with purpose of lording it over the nature. And yeah, so this is a very, very powerful verse. So let's go back to our discussions again. In every time, Vidur was giving a perfect advice to Dhritarashtra, but because of the extreme material attachments, he was heavily influenced by his son, Duryodhana. Though Dhritarashtra perfectly knew that Vidur was right, he was giving the right advice, and he himself was wrong. But how Mayadevi plays a very important, very powerful, a perfect role and bewilders a person who, because of this deep material attachment, and more important than that, a wrong association of a non-devotees. So in 2.44 Bhagavad Gita, Lord says, Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya parutachetasam vyavasaya atmika buddhi buddhi samadho na vidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service for the path of bhakti um, to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Very clear. In the second chapter itself, there is a clear distinction between what to do and what not to do. And then from 2.60 to 2.66, let's go back to Bhagavad Gita again. Here it is. In fact, there is a in 59 itself, it says the tortoise, that is the analogy given by Krishna himself, and then he's saying refraining from sense enjoyment. But from 60 onwards, these senses are so strong and impet. I don't know how to pronounce this. O Arjun, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Impetuous. Okay. Text 61. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as man of steady intelligence. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. This is very dhayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pujayate. Sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodha dhyayate. Very, very famous verse. And anger, delusion arises, bewilderment of the memory, and when memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into material pool. The famous verse, Sutta Goswami says, Prayana alpayusha sarve kalavasvini vejanaha mandah sumanda matayo mandabhagya putruta. Because in this age of Kali, people are always hypocritic, quarrelsome. That means they are always angry. And that's why he says they are dull-headed, manda, sumanda matayo, manda bhagya. And because the person who is always dull-headed, angry, lusty, obviously their bhagya, their future is also not very encouraging, not very good. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. That's the hope we have. For thus, one satisfied in Krishna consciousness on the path of bhakti, we are coming back to the same point here for today's discussion. The threefold miseries of material existence exists no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. And this is the important rhetoric question Krishna asks. One who is not connected with the Supreme can have, in Krishna consciousness, can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? We all know that. So, coming back to today's discussion. So, here Krishna says to Arjun, he tells Arjun to declare something. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachanti nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranishyati. Quickly then become virtuous and attain lasting peace. That's the first part. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma. Follow that path of bhakti. That's what shashvachanti nigacchati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that no devotee of mine is ever lost. That means I'm always there. That eternity in the path of bhakti is guaranteed. That's what Krishna is saying here. And what is the um, in, what is the actual explanation of this particular verse further? That is there in 18th chapter. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Just that mundane religious activities, just for the sake of it, he's saying remove everything. Every activity should be on the path of bhakti. And that's, if we go back to 9th chapter, why 9th chapter is the sweetest, the most powerful chapter? Because that's where the promises of the Lord are one after another. One of the most important promises, I will carry what you have, preserve what you have, and carry what you lack. Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana paripasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. So it's a complete package, it's a complete process if we go back and forth of what path of bhakti related verses Maitreya Muni is saying, what Lord has confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. So there is one interesting pattern we all can remember here. Right from all the prayers, if we go back in the first canto, Kunti Maharani's prayers, Bhishma Dev's prayers, and all other Yudhishthir Maharaj's prayers, Narad Muni's prayers, everything. And then Brahmaji's prayers in the third canto, and in second canto, Shukdev Goswami's prayers, every prayer. The confirmation in those prayers on the path of bhakti is already confirmed in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna himself again and again and again. So whenever pure devotee speaks something, and this will happen, and this is the root cause, and this is the conclusion, and this is the solution. This is already, when person has gone through the verses of Bhagavad Gita, we can immediately correlate the verses from Srimad Bhagavatam of in the prayers as well as any conclusion by the words of Lord Himself. That is why that important verse, Srimatamso Katha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, either said by the Lord Himself or said about the Lord by His devotees. That's what purifies our heart. Riddhantasthoya abhadrani vidhanoti suratsatam. So, what this tells us, that Kaurav were in Mahabharata, they were making all the plans of opulences. They were trying to do all the plans of the wicked activities to kill the Pandavas, and making sure that no one other than Kauravas and their quote-unquote well-wishers will be able to enjoy that kingdom, will have that. And the rightful claim of the five Pandavas will never become successful. That was their idea. But what was lacking there? The common sense of path of bhakti. And in the dharma, artha, kama, moksha, in all the four purusharthas, even if you do it as per the scriptures, but if there is no personal relationship with the Lord, in that path of bhakti, it will be futile. It will be a futile attempt, and that is again going back to these two verses we just talked about. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma, shashvachanti nigacchati, or sarvadharman parityajya. Both of them. So ultimate purushartha or the concluding purushartha of dharma, artha, kama, moksha is the path of bhakti. Prema Pumartho Mahan, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's actually quoted by Srinath Chakravarti Thakur. So, Vidurji is the highly qualified personality, and what we learn from all these conversations, from these verses, what Maitreya Muni has spoken and Vidurji's questions are, what we learn from here is the humility. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Charitamrita very elaborately with so many examples. The whole Chaitanya Charitamrita is the examples we see is the humility. And Lord Chaitanya says that without humility, you cannot attract the mercy of the Lord. And the example is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's very beautiful prayer from Sharanagati. Ohe Vaishnava Thakura, Duyara Sagura. If we meditate on this prayer, he's saying it to Lord Shiva, who is the topmost Vaishnava, that I'm a person. He says, Amito Kangal. I don't have any qualification. I don't have anything. I don't have any bhakti in my heart. You are the one who will give me. You will shower that mercy, that love, which you have from the Lord. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mood is. Amazing prayer, amazing, very beautiful bhajan he has sung, he has composed. And in the earlier verse, what we saw is this chanting and hearing the glories of Krishna, Namaguna Rupa. And very few people come to this conclusion, and that's what Lord says, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sarvam Iti Samahatma Sudurlavaha. For when any person surrenders himself to the Lord, that is very rare. Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. Everything is yours. That's what Lord is saying. That's how the bhakta is. Many births someone comes to this point. If now, what is the hope for us in this Kali Yuga? We can't remember most of the things. Angry people, Manda Sumanda Matayo, or fortune is not good, looking good. So what is the hope for us? Hope is that Tattenu Kumpasu Samikshamano. Whatever our situation is, we just keep tolerating all the ups and downs, chant the holy name, serve the devotees, develop that mood of humility, loving relationship with devotees and with everyone. Wherever possible, we need to understand that we are just heavily conditioned souls, and we need to take the shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So that's what the conclusion is. I think I will stop here. Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, I had a bit of a cough, so I'm sorry about this. Just wanted to ask, first of all, say thank you so much for sharing so much knowledge and your wealth of knowledge with us. Thank you for your time and doing all this research and sharing some valuable points. I had a couple of questions because you mentioned that Duryodhana had the darshan of Lord Krishna in the form of the Virat Swarup.
Yes.
And even then he didn't surrender to Krishna. So what was the reason? And also second question is, if he had an association was another point that was mentioned. And his grandfather was one of the 12 Mahajans. He knew Krishna. He was a devotee. Even though having him as his grandfather, how come he never managed to change? and surrender to Krishna.
Good questions, Mataji. Thank you. I'm sure you know you must have heard the answers from many people, but for our own purification, we will go through. Duryodhan, now, if we see the background of it, Duryodhan was in association of Shakuni. And Shakuni was a person who had that spirit of vengeance because um, his sister was married to a blind man, and that time he came from this Gandhara Desh, and he had that plan to poison the minds of the sons of his sister, because um, that is the nature of envious people. And Shakuni wanted to ruin the whole kingdom of because he did not like that his sister getting married to a blind man. Dhritarashtra had, that's one point. So he was always conditioned. Duryodhan was always had that conditioning, all that brainwashing, or I shouldn't say washing, but it was all the filth was there coming from Shakuni. Second point, Dhritarashtra, as the name indicates, he always wanted to have that opportunity to enjoy the kingdom, knowingly that he was not qualified. So that association was the first thing of father with Duryodhan. All his brothers were similar, except Vikarna, who was a sensible person. Dushala was also like that, and her husband there, Jayadratha, he was also envious person, very wicked-minded. Why? Jayadratha's father, he was a demoniac personality. So it was all the cartel of demons who were intoxicated by pride and envy and illusion, all the six enemies. And then who met them? Karna, who was previously a demon called Dambodhava, who was envious again. Because of he was a Surya Putra, he had some good qualities, but there were a lot of bad qualities he has. And he met Duryodhan. So it's a combination of power, some of the royal opulences in terms of the physical opulences or material opulences, as well as the quality-wise opulences, which are actually shared by the Lord himself. And that was the result that envious person cannot see anything good. Even if Lord showed him the Vishwarup Darshan, still because of the envy, he thought that it is some kind of gimmick, not that him as a supreme personality of Godhead. Now, interesting bit is Samba's wife Lakshmana was Duryodhana's daughter. Now that's another interesting point. And before the war of Mahabharata, Duryodhan went to see the Lord. They had an exchange. Arjun and Duryodhan, they gave a hug to each other, and Duryodhan always treated Arjun as his younger brother. He had little bit of affection for Arjun as well. But when the envy is very powerful, all the good qualities of any person start subsiding, and envy takes over. And that when there is envy, then everything else gets ruined. And that's the reason Duryodhan, apparently he thought that he will win, but he was always a loser. Does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, then we will stop. It's already 9 o'clock.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please connect with my humble obeisances, O Great Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for all this information. One thing that you said that really touched me here was that Srila Prabhupada, till his last minute, last breath, he had the dictaphone and he kept dictating what to write and translating the Bhagavatam and everything. But if we ask how many of us read the purport, so many people are reading the Bhagavatam, only the verses and the translation. Some don't even read the verses, only the translation. We need to see how many times you have read the Srimad Bhagavatam, but what have you understood? In Toronto, Prabhuji, we read the verses, we read the synonyms, word to word translation, we read the translation and the purport, whole thing. We don't skip anything. So that should be our mentality, just to thank Srila Prabhupada for all these pain he has taken to give us this beautiful grant. But what are we doing?
Absolutely.
Please, everybody should try to, and we get so much knowledge through his purports, so much things we learn through his purports. Anybody who sits on the Vyasasana, they read the purport and they gather knowledge from there. Because in the translation and in verses, you don't get much. But in the purport, we get so much.
Yes,
Thank you, Prabhuji. I just wanted to bring this to attention of the devotees who are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, one point you said about I don't read the word-to-word translation when I'm giving these classes on Zoom, mainly because we read many verses at one point of time, maybe 3, 4 sometimes, and then going through these synonyms. One thing is the time is limited, and the second is to go through the synonyms, word-to-word translation, and then going back and forth in purport. For all these 4, 5 verses, it's not practically possible to discuss everything in detail, because the word-to-word translation is actually Vidura Uvacha, Vidur said. So Srila Prabhupada has covered this in the translation itself. When I have to give a class in the manner, then I go through the word-to-word translation and explaining in details in that perspective. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
But Prabhuji, why only at the manner? We should take only 1 or 2 verses. I'm not telling you, it's not you. I'm talking about myself. Usually I will ask for 1 or 2 verses. Even in our Kenya group, we read the word-to-word translation, which help people to understand. Because sometimes, there's so much confusion with the Sanskrit word. One word may mean 3, 4 things. So the person, mostly the new person, they get an idea of the words. And then when they recite, they don't make mistakes and they understand what they are reading. So Prabhuji, sorry, I'm not talking for others, I'm talking for myself. So thank you so much.
No, you're right. But the thing is, I have learned Devanagari, I have learned Sanskrit in my childhood. So when I read that, actually I read it in a separation, like the way Srila Prabhupada has given the synonyms here. Sanchinnaha samshayo mahyam tava sukta sina vibho ubhayatrapi bhagavan manome sampradhavati. So this is actually sampradhavati, that is one word here, perfectly entering. And that he has given here, how now perfectly entering. So that's the reason I don't go through these synonyms here, because
it's not only you, Prabhuji, it's everyone who comes on this Zoom platform. Nobody do that. Well, I'm just talking like people should read the purport. Okay, leave that word to word, the synonyms, leave it. Let's read the purport. Just for Srila Prabhupada's satisfaction, that's for his pleasure, because he took so much pain, Prabhuji. And
Yes.
what are we giving? Not even thankful.
Yes.
Sorry,
That's it.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the suggestion. So maybe next session onwards, I will read synonyms as well. Hopefully, we will be able to cover everything in our span, whatever span of time is, half an hour or 45 minutes. Thank you. Let's stop here. Panchakalpatarubhyascha कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव अनंतकोटि वैष्णव.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thanks very much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, brother.
Krishna.
So I will stop sharing.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.